Hi my loves, I'm Anita Manager and welcome back to another episode of Sip and Simmer. While we all may have our concerns and worries in life, for the next 30 minutes you're mine. We're here to have a drink, a snack, and a good time. Before I go any further, this is the evening that everybody has been waiting for. No, it is not the sausage rolls. It is time to pick our winner of our first giveaway. For the giveaway, the winner will get an Anita Manager t-shirt, a Sienna Rose t-shirt, a limited edition Troop 429 t-shirt, and a season pass to Connecticut's Varsity Gay League kickball? Question mark, I think. I believe so. I should know these things. But I have everybody's name who is entered right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick the name, and the winner has 24 hours to claim it. Otherwise, another name from this bowl is going to get picked. So, without looking, no cheating. Ryan Prindle. He's a local, so congratulations to Ryan and winning the t-shirts and the season pass to Varsity Gay League. Now, because I'm so amazing and everybody loves Mother so much, I'm going to pick one more winner. They are not going to get the whole package, but they'll get a wonderful t-shirt of me, Mrs. Anita Manager. All right, so I'm gonna pick one more name. I want to get a good one. Kelly Vigaro. All right, guys, so we have Ryan Prindle and Kelly Vigaro. You have 24 hours to claim your prize, otherwise you are going to forfeit it to somebody else. So make sure you private message me and I will get your addresses and ship them out immediately. All right, so this episode, we are going to be making sausage rolls and a Hawaiian Martini. If you would like to contribute to the production of Sip and Simmer, and that includes all the lovely drinks and snacks that we make here, including some of the giveaways, because things can get a little expensive. My Venmo is Mrs. Anita Manager, and all the proceeds do go to all of the drinks, the snacks, and some of the giveaway. So, before we go on to our drink, I have a very special request for tonight's Anita Minute. So before we go on, Anita Minute. Tonight we're going to talk about friendships. Friendships shape our lives and help mold us into the people that we are. Friends support each other and encourage each other. Friends see the best in each other and tell each other the truth, even if it hurts sometimes. All relationships have disagreements, arguments, and hurt feelings happen sometimes. It's inevitable, and no matter how close and understanding both of you are, knowing how to approach these friendship hurdles not only says a lot about your character, but it testifies to the strength of your friendship bonds. It can be hard to overcome a loss of trust or a fight, but I want you to try and see things from a different perspective and resolve the conflict on a positive and lasting note. Everybody makes mistakes. It's part of life. And by learning from and growing from our own mistakes, it can help move us forward and develop stronger relationship skills overall. That's a tongue twister. When you do have to apologize, make sure you apologize from the heart. If you make a mistake and you owe somebody an apology, don't layer the apology with excuses. Take responsibility for your words and your behavior. This includes not making excuses for your actions as well. I want you to remember that you cannot control another person's reaction to an apology, no matter how heartfelt it is. You are only responsible for your own actions, and apologizing is no guarantee that the other person will react or respond in the same way that you wanted them to. The most important factor here is not to linger on the mistake and beat yourself up over it. Mistakes do happen. No one can be perfect all of the time. Well, all human beings are bound to screw up. We learn from our mistakes and we move on. How we make the effort to correct them going forward makes a real difference in our relationships with others and with ourselves. If you're honest, if the relationship is worth it to both of you, you can both grow. I'm sure it will take some time depending on the severity of the situation, of course, but also it's important to know when enough is enough. The punishment should fit the crime. Begging for forgiveness is not how an apology works, and nobody should expect that from you. Being genuine works both ways. Know your worth, know your friend's worth, and be honest with each other. Ding! So that is a very special request for my opinion on trust in a friendship. Now, after that kind of emotion, we need some drinks, don't we? All right, since it's Mama Monday, we are having a Mama Martini, and today we are having a Hawaiian Martini. Now, there's a bunch of recipes online. This was altered by our executive producer, Nicholas, because it was way too sweet and it didn't quite taste like a martini. It tasted more like a cocktail. So, this is our edited version for Sip and Simmer. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take 2 ounces of vodka, you're gonna take a half an ounce of triple sec, you're gonna take an ounce of rum. I would prefer using a coconut rum or a plain rum. We have a pineapple rum, so it's just gonna make it a little bit sweeter. And then we're going to do, I don't know what that one was. That was an extra one, but it'll make the drink better. And 2 ounces of pineapple juice. So we've got that in our shaker. I'm gonna give that a shake. And then I'm gonna pour it directly into my cold martini glass. I look forward to this every day. Yeah, believe it or not, I would go sometimes weeks without drinking, and since the quarantine, I've had to drink almost every night. I'm limiting myself really to 1, maybe 2, but they are delicious, and they're worth every calorie. And that is a fantastic martini. So, I don't know what that extra ingredient was, so when I find out from production, I will let all of you know, but that is fantastic. It's a little bit sweet, but that vodka gives it a nice kick, and then the sweetness of the rum, that's called balance. Okay. So, we're making sausage tarts tonight in puff pastry. Now, as you can see here, excuse me, I have store-bought puff pastry. You can either do the roll and you can cut it out, and I'm gonna show you that later, or you can get these little shells that puff up and create like a little bowl. I thought these were super cute, and also the grocery store didn't have the other one. But I'm going to show you in a little while how to make your puff pastry at home. Now, the reason that we're not doing it for tonight is because making puff pastry takes 2 days, and it's really annoying. But I'm gonna show you how to do it anyway because I love you so much. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take our finished sausage filling, and I'm just gonna fill the cups. It's super, super simple. Personally, I would top mine with a dollop of sour cream and maybe like a little bit of chives. And then I would decoratively place the little topper on it, but we don't have those things and we're not wasting money in right now. So that is the finished product, and now we're gonna see how we got here. Okay, so to start, what we're gonna do is we are going to get our skillet, and we're going to get a mixing bowl, and I have an onion here. Usually I have everything prepped before the show, but I did want to show you how quickly and easily you can chop onions, or anything for that matter, for a recipe without necessarily having to get it already sliced or cut, because those are very expensive. It's literally like 3 times the price to get diced onions. I don't know why garlic is so much cheaper when you buy it diced, but I don't go to grocery store. So I cut off the butt, I cut off the head, and I'm not really sure what else to call them, so that's just what we're gonna call them. I've got my little garbage bowl here. Okay. So I don't know if anybody's been paying attention to the weather, but we have a beautiful weekend coming up, and I am so excited to get out and start doing some planting. I did a little bit already, but I'm really excited for it to stay in the 60s. I look at the weather every day, because not only being stuck at home, but being stuck at home with this weather is not cute. Over it. Okay, so I think I showed you guys the other day how I did it. So I cut it long ways, and then I just go back, and then I just cut across to get it nice and small. because you want it to be able to break down when you get it into the frying pan, so that way it all fits into your little molds of puff pastry. Okay, so I've got my onion almost done. Do you guys have any plans for this beautiful weekend coming up? Sunny and in the 60s. For me, that's shorts and a hoodie kind of weather. I don't think I'd go outside in a t-shirt and shorts. It's either one or the other. But I really want to get some color on my legs. Okay, so before we go on and put everything in our frying pan, we're going to turn it on. And we're going to let it heat up for just a second. Now, in the recipe, I put a tablespoon of olive oil. Just do enough to coat the bottom of your pan. You don't have to go crazy because this is sausage, and sausage does have fat in it, and you don't want it to be too juicy. So, I'm just going to drizzle a zigzag through the pan, and that is enough. Thank you, Mar. She's new. I was very excited to wear her. I was going to wear a different wig, but Miss Sienna made the suggestion, and when she's good at something, she's good at something. She could pick out hair, I'll tell you that much. All right, so my oil is heated up just about enough. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna toss in my onion, and you're gonna use the whole thing. You wanna make sure that you use an onion that's a little bit on the smaller side, so that way it's not too overly oniony. So I've had a hammock in my backyard probably for years. I used it twice. So more power to you, Jess, because it's just a decoration in my backyard at this point. Okay, so I'm gonna give the onions a little bit of a toss in the oil. And you wanna make sure that as you are cooking, we haven't done many savory things, but while you're cooking, you wanna make sure that you season everything along the way, so that way you build layers of flavor throughout the meal or the dish or whatever. So I'm just gonna sprinkle a little coarse salt over the onions. Also, doing the salt at this point helps break down the onion and helps it saute a little bit faster. Now, next we're going to be putting garlic into the pan. But you want to make sure that garlic is one of the last things that you put in, because if you cook garlic too long, you lose all of its flavor. You'll still have the smell of garlic, but you're not going to have any taste, and there's no point in it at that point. And I love me some garlic. So, once I have this going, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, because when you're caramelizing onions, it's low and slow. Now, I've got 6 sausages here, the skin removed, or the casing, or whatever, it's disgusting. So before we work with this, I'm going to get all my dry ingredients into the bowl first, so that way I can really coat the sausage in the seasonings and everything. So I have 3 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. And yes, we are still using the breadcrumbs that Sienna Rose made live. I have a half a teaspoon of dried sage. Sage and sausage is an amazing pairing. Alright, so here I have a full teaspoon of salt. And then finally I have half a teaspoon of powdered mustard. If you don't have powdered mustard, you can use regular Dijon mustard. It is going to alter the flavor a little bit, because you really want to make sure that you use a dried mustard for something like this, because the flavor is different. But if you don't have dried mustard, you can use Dijon mustard. You'll still get the tanginess of it, but it will water it down a little bit. So, I've got my dry ingredients all in the bowl. I'm just going to fluff it with a fork just to make sure that the flavors are mixed in. And now I'm going to add a little bit of fresh pepper. So I typically store my homemade breadcrumbs in a mason jar, and they usually last me like 2 months. Now, the most important thing, I don't know if you saw the episode where we made the breadcrumbs, but you want to make sure that they're completely dry, because moisture is what builds mold. If you don't get all of the moisture out, they're not going to last a day or 2. So the most important thing is making sure that your breadcrumbs are 100% dry, and they should last a month or 2. They don't last that long in my house because I use all of them, But if you store them in a mason jar, you should have like about a 2-month shelf life. Okay, so my onions are reducing. Okay, so now I'm going to add the sausage to my dry ingredients. There is nothing more disgusting to me than raw meat. I hate touching it. Another benefit of having lovely roommates, because I get Greg to mix the meatloaf, make the meatballs, because it's just so slimy. I think I've learned to tolerate touching raw chicken, but still not a fan. If I am mixing ground beef or sausage, sometimes I will wear gloves because it just skeeves me out. And I can't get through it without washing my hands like twice. Okay, so, since I don't have Greg here, I'm using a fork. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure that I really get all of the dry ingredients smashed into the sausage, because it's going to help absorb some of that fat, so that way we keep all the flavor from the sausage and we're able to use it into our sausage roll. Now, if you're going to be cheating like I did, and you're going to be using the puff pastry with the walls, you're going to want to cook everything first, and then fill the puff pastry. If you buy the sheet of puff pastry, you don't want to cook it yet. So what you're going to do is you're going to mix the meat just like I did now, and you're going to let the onions and the garlic caramelize, and then you're going to let them cool to room temperature, and then you're going to roll the sausage into the puff pastry. But since we're doing it this way, it's a little fun, like, skip step. So I know that there are vegetarian meat options. I'm sure you could do it like one of those. Actually, I have a great recipe for veggie chili that I think would be delicious in puff pastry, but it's pretty much just, this is just like a really old English recipe that I found, because you're going to be hearing this a lot this week. I love Great British Bake Off, so this is just one of the recipes from the show. They did make their own puff pastry, but you can really fill puff pastry with anything. It can be savory or it can be sweet. A lot of hors d'oeuvres are made with puff pastry, and they've got spinach and cheese, they have sausage. A lot of the frozen mini quiches are in a puff pastry, not in a quiche shell. So you can really fill a puff pastry with pretty much anything. Has anybody at home made a puff pastry before? Because when you see the work that's entailed in it, you're gonna buy them too, because it's really annoying. Okay, so I've got my sausage all mixed with the dry ingredients. I threw my garlic into the onions. I'm gonna turn my burner back on, get the pan warm again, and I'm going to pop the sausage into the pan. At this point, I'm just going to flatten out the sausage so it cooks a little bit more quickly. Beautiful. Alright, so now I'm going to jump back over, and I'm going to grab my puff pastry that just came out of the oven. Okay, so when you buy these guys, you're going to throw them in the oven for 18 to 20 minutes at 425. They look like little hockey pucks, and then they puff up to about an inch, inch and a half. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to reach inside, and you're going to pop out the center part, and that's what creates the little hat for it. I don't know what it's really called, but I call it a hat. It looks kind of like a little, what's the French hat? Beret? I'm not as dumb as I sound, I promise. Okay, so, and you want to make sure that you do this when they're still hot, so that way you don't do things like this. But it's not a big deal, because once we put the filling in, yes, that's a beret, thank you. Once we put the filling in, it's not really going to go anywhere. Now at this point, what you can do is you can coat the base of it, if you have a pastry brush, with either Dijon mustard, creme fraiche, or anything that you feel like would complement the sausage. But I'm just gonna follow the traditional recipe, aside from using store-bought puff pastry, which literally just calls for the cooked sausage to be put inside of the puff pastry. Okay. So as you're cooking your sausage, you wanna make sure that you really break it up, so that way you can fit as much as you can into the puff pastry. So, I'm going to get rid of my garbage bowl. I'm going to have a sip because we're waiting. So, this is just about finished, and these are great. One or two of these, throw a little asparagus on the plate, a little green bean, and it's a fun little dish. It's super, super easy. And you've got, I really like serving a balanced dinner. So it's always like a starch or a bread with a veggie and a meat. And you've got two of those categories right here. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you guys how to make the puff pastry while the sausage finishes cooking. And just in case anybody came in late to the chat room, like Miss Robin Fierce, I'm drinking a Hawaiian Martini. I still think that these things should be called chat rooms, because you're chatting, okay? It's not a comment on a picture, it is a ongoing conversation. An ongoing conversation is a chat. Thank you. Okay, so I am going to just turn the burner down on this, let that brown a little bit more, and I'm going to show you guys how to make a puff pastry. When you see these steps, you will understand why I did not do it. Because, like I said earlier, first of all, it takes like 2 days, and second of all, it is a ton of work. So, I've got my food processor here. I'm just going to open it up. And I have all of my ingredients in the refrigerator, so I'm going to grab those because you want everything to be super, super cool. Okay, so for the puff pastry, I have a 1.25 cups of flour. I've got a 1.5 sticks of butter, and I've got a 1/4 cup of water. This has all been in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. You want all of the ingredients to be super, super cold. So, I'm going to first go in with the flour, and then with the butter. So it's similar to the short crust, but that's just the start. So what I'm going to do is I have the flour and the butter in the food processor. I'm just going to pulse it a few times just to break up the butter. And now I'm going to pour in the butter. And again, like short crust, you want to make sure that the butter doesn't melt so that way it stays all separated. So I'm going to turn it on now. Pour in the water. And the second that it turns into a ball, you're going to turn it off. Because cooking is multitasking, and that's why you turn it off right now. So, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it out onto a clean surface. Alright, so I have my saran wrap, and then it's going to go into the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. You want to make sure that that butter is cold again. And even just from working with it, even though the water and the flour was cold, it still softened the butter too much to work with. So I'm just going to shape it into a disc, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to melt 1/2 stick of butter in a dish. Whatever dish you have that's shallow, that you can get that butter relatively thin in. My dish that I used was an oval, so I'm just going to get it a little ovally. All right, so this is gonna go in the refrigerator for at least 2 hours. And I am going to grab the next step. Okay, so here I have the cold dough and I have the cold butter. So it's been melted, shaped, good to go. The one step that I did forget about the butter is putting parchment paper in there, so it's going to be a little hard getting out, but that's fine. So, this is where all of the work for any kind of puff pastry, croissants, anything that has like that flaky layered is all butter and dough, and butter and dough. So when you bite into a croissant and you see 7,000 layers, there's 7,000 layers of flour and butter. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dust my work surface with flour so it doesn't stick to everything. I have my disc of dough, and now we roll it. And what you want to do is you want to roll it so it's 3 times the size of the butter, because we're going to be folding it over. So, I've got my rolling pin. Can you tell I'm dreading doing this? And also that's delicious. All right, so I'm gonna make sure that I flour the top of the dough. And now I'm just gonna hope it doesn't roll all over the place. All right, so you wanna make sure that you work from the center and work your way out. Just gonna use a little help here. We're not turning the burner back on, so you don't have to worry. All right, so I'm gonna roll it out from the inside out, inside out. So the way that I have found that you can get more layers more quickly, I should probably go back to school and take like an English class or something if I'm gonna communicate with people. All right, so I've found that doing it, so there's, I think it's called the envelope method, which is folding it into 3s. So I would put the butter in the middle and then fold over a third of it and then fold over the other third and keep on going from there. I found that the bookend method gets so many more layers so much more quickly. Girl, get a marble rolling pin, Ellen. I'm telling you, life changer. I used to have a wooden rolling pin and I threw it away because I could not get it clean. These babies are like 25 bucks on Amazon, get one. All right, so I've got my dough rolled out. I'm gonna make sure that it stays nice and floured on both sides so we don't stick to anything because it's work. And if you think that this is a lot of work, you don't understand the fact that you're gonna be doing this like 5 or 6 times. Yeah, you're gonna be rolling out the dough 5 or 6 times and folding it. And then putting it in the refrigerator for a half hour and then rolling it out and then folding it and then rolling it out and then in the refrigerator and then rolling it out and then it's a process because you have to actually make each layer. So depending on how many layers, I'm going to use a spoon to get my butter out because I didn't think, oh my God, it came out perfect. All right, so you're gonna take your flat piece of butter and you're gonna put it roughly in the center of your dough. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to fold over a quarter of it to the center. And then I'm gonna meet the other side at the center. And then I'm going to fold it in half. Got there, all right. So now I've got 4 layers. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna roll it out. And I'm gonna do that again. So I'm gonna do a quarter, and a quarter, and I'm gonna roll it out. Smash it down a little bit to spread out the butter. And we're rolling. And we're flouring. And we're rolling. So you can do this maybe like 2 or 3 times before the butter starts to melt. And then you're gonna wanna put it in the refrigerator for like a half hour for the butter to get cold. But this is why I don't make puff pastry. This is why some things are just better store-bought. And I can't believe that I'm the one saying this, but believe me, buy store-bought puff pastry. So I'm gonna roll this out and then flour it and then quarter and then quarter. Could you imagine watching me do this for a whole half hour? No. Okay, so I'm gonna just do one more. Okay. And it's messy. Who wants to do this? All right, so this time I'm gonna do a third just to get it done. Nice. Good. So now I'm gonna get my plastic wrap and I'm gonna wrap it. So I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator for 30 minutes and then I'm gonna do that again. And then I'm gonna put it back in the refrigerator for 30 minutes and do it again. But you're gonna do that at least 4 times. Yeah, 4 times. And then when you feel like you're finished, then you wait 24 hours before you even use it. So, when I get puff pastry, I usually get, I'm gonna put that in the fridge. If I'm gonna make it, I'm not gonna lose it. So the other thing with puff pastry is when you let the butter melt, that's it, it's just dough. So you wanna make sure that it stays cold. When I'm buying puff pastry, I typically get, I'm pretty sure it's Pepperidge Farm. It's just the one that I've always used. I'm sure that the other brands are good. But I personally like Pepperidge Farm. Okay, so my sausage looks like she's all cooked. So what I did was I just let it brown on like a medium-high heat until the sausage started to brown. And then I just removed it from the heat and just let the residual heat finish cooking the sausage. Again, this is pork sausage, so you want to be careful. You want to make sure that it is 100% cooked before using it or eating it. So what I'm going to do is I am going to check this after the show, but I've got our finished product here. I've got the sausage that I've checked. It's like Tetris, I'm just working all the way around the kitchen. This is what happens when I don't have somebody with me to like limit me to a part of the kitchen. So this is why it's a good thing that I have Sienna here. Aside from the help that she provides, she also limits my eccentricness from bouncing all around the kitchen. Okay, so like you guys saw me doing in the beginning, I've got my puff pastry. I'm telling you, I'm all over the place. I didn't know what I did with the other plate, so I'm just gonna plate them right on this guy. All right, so we're gonna take our finished sausage, and it doesn't get any easier. If you want to, like I said, you can brush the bottom with Dijon, and then just scoop your sausage into it, and then once everything, rewind. Make sure that your sausage is at room temperature before you put it in, because otherwise it will make the puff pastry soggy. So once the sausage is at room temperature, you're going to fill the little cups, and then you can pop it in the oven for like 5 minutes at 350. If you are making it the traditional way, amen, God bless you, whatever. So you're gonna make your puff pastry 4 or 5 times, rolling it out, making sure that the butter doesn't melt. Then you're gonna take it out and you're gonna roll it into a rectangle. You're gonna put the raw sausage down the center, wrap it, so that way you have a full sausage roll, the traditional one. And then you are going to cut every inch, turn it on its side, and that's the traditional one. You're gonna bake that at 350. I will post both my recipe and the traditional recipe side by side so you can see them. And while I'm on the subject, before I say goodbye, My YouTube and my personal website are almost done being updated. I'm sorry that I haven't posted all of the recipes so far this week, but once the website and the YouTube are fully done, I will be posting the links to each of them directly after the episode. So that is a traditional sausage roll with an Anita twist. I want to thank everybody for coming out. I would like to congratulate Kelly and Ryan for winning the first ever giveaway on Sip and Simmer. And we will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow is Tuesday, so we have our lovely Sienna back. And please make sure, Ryan and Kelly, that you message me so that way I can get your addresses and ship over your winnings. Everybody have a great night. I'm Anita Manager, and you guys have a great night. Mwah.